Hi, Jordan Belfort here, and I want to welcome you to the script building technology section of the straight line system. And I think of all the different sections of the straight line technology, this is perhaps in its own way the most important, because what a script really does, it's the well thought out essence of the perfect sale. In other words, it allows you essentially to go to all the past experiences you have with selling a product and to give you all your best lines in exactly the right order, and it basically allows you to keep complete control of the sale and to sound like you know what you're talking about it. In other words, it allows you to answer objections in a way that doesn't take you off the straight line and off into Pluto or Uranus, right? It keeps you in that comfort zone where you're in control of the sale. And from a company's perspective, meaning management, it allows them to systemize their sales force and manage it all in the same fashion. And that's crucial to a company's uniformity and really allows them to grow and expand and duplicate things in a way that, you know, if they walk into one office and there's another office, everyone's doing things the same precise way. And that's important not just, you know, for sales, for results. It's also important for ethical reasons, for regulatory reasons, because, you know, in the absence of scripts, what I've found very often is that salesmen will start, you know, going off the straight line and saying things sometimes that are really, really stupid and sometimes that are really, really not true. And, you know, sometimes salesmen do that, no doubt, you know, they're bad intentioned, but I would say more often than not, perhaps 90% or better of the time, it's not so much that the salesman wants to lie or be deceitful, they just run out of intelligent things to say. And once they run out of intelligent things to say, they start making it up. And they think it sounds good as they're saying it, but when you actually on the other end listening to it, it's hard on the ears. So, you know, what it really does is it gives you the opportunity to really go through an entire sale from A to Z and script out all of the rebuttals. So you can, you know, really know all the objections beforehand, because there's only, let's say, 5 or 6 different rebuttals that people ever come up with. And this allows you to create an airtight, logical, and an airtight emotional case to overcome people's objections, to also, you know, create those 3 10s I spoke about on the product, yourself, and your company, and allows you to make those airtight, logical, and emotional cases without lying, exaggerating, or wasting your prospect's time. It also allows you to make effective use of tonality and body language. Remember, only 9% of human communication is the actual words. A lot more of it is, you know, how you say your words, the tone in which you say them, and how you move your body when you're face to face. What it chunks up to at the higher levels is that you're a person worth listening to, that you're a person that can help them achieve their goals, help them get their own outcomes. Okay, and when you have certain tonalities, let's say a tonality of absolute certainty. So let me give you certainty for 1 second here. I say, let me tell you something. You do not understand how incredible this product is. Now, those words themselves are stupid, but let's just say it this way. I can't tell you, you have no idea how incredible this product is. Now I say, I can't tell you how incredible this product is. Which one sounds more compelling? Now, of course, the words are kind of ridiculous, but you saw that when I applied a tonality of certainty to the same set of words, it took on a much greater meaning, and it starts to move you emotionally. Another thing I want you to notice is that when I started talking about, you know, the scripting, and I was very certain, I started sounding certain, notice how I started moving my hands. I started smacking the back of my right hand into my left palm. That's a gesture that I use to create certainty. Now, it happens automatically, but for your purposes, as you're learning to muster that certain tone whenever you want it, you'll notice that every person, especially you, for your own purposes, you have a gesture that you'll do automatically when you want to summon the tone of certainty. So once you identify that gesture, which mine is this, right? If you need to sound certain and you know there's a certain spot in your presentation you want to be absolutely certain about, you can create that tone and assist yourself in creating that tone by using the gesture. In this case, it would be this. So I'd say, watch. You know, this is the most incredible product that we've ever released. Or I say, this is the most incredible product we have ever released. Again, you saw much more power with the latter versus the former. And you notice how I automatically bang my hand into the back of my hand. And for me, you see, so you know, that's my gesture. You might have an entirely different gesture. So what I'm going to ask you to do, and this is also in other elements of the straight line system, you learn how to link certain gestures to your tonalities. But for the purposes of script building, remember, you're going to see once you have a great script that has a complete introduction, a body, and a close, you're going to see that there are certain specific spots when you need to sound very certain, other spots where you need to have a tone of sincerity, a tone of reasonableness, whatever those different tones. We'll go through all those tones in a moment. But what you'll see is that when you have a script, you know where they are, you can use them and summon them at the precise moment. Okay? Now, the question really is, why my scripts? What are really special about the scripts I write? And, are they better than other scripts? Are they different? And the answer is, well, I think they're a hell of a lot better than other scripts. But most importantly, they're structured in a way that's formulaic. In other words, they can be duplicated for any industry, for any outcome that you want. And I want to give you some very basic structure here, some things that allow you really to adopt your industry to the straight line system. And one of the most important things, remember, about any script is that, and this goes by the, let me just digress for a second to Hollywood, because there's the Wolf of Wall Street movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, right? And the script for that movie, when you read the script, because it's a phenomenal script, it doesn't sound like the actors are reading from a script. The lines are written in such a way that it sounds natural and it's pleasing to the ear. That's an important quality to any script. See, you can never sound like you're reading from a script. So you have to learn to master the art, and again, this is straight line technology, to learn to master the art of reading a script without sounding like you're reading a script. And that can be in person, because of course you don't have a script in front of you when you're selling face-to-face or influencing face-to-face. And when you're on the phone, yes, you can have one, but either way, the most important thing is that you sound natural, and the words that you say, the syllables, the number of beats, and the rhythm is pleasing to the ear. Okay? So that's one thing that's very, very important with my scripts. Another thing is the scripts that I write are not what's called front-loaded. And what I mean by that is that you don't put every single benefit and every single feature right up front, and just like you try to blast the person and try to get them to these super high levels of certainty right away. What happens is, typically the way we're built as human beings is that you can't get someone from 0 to 100 like that. There has to be these little stopping off points. You get someone who is maybe not that certain about your product or you, and then you run a language pattern. You go through part of a script and they become more certain. And then you back off, and then you can, again, re-approach them again, make them even more certain. You back off again a little bit later in the conversation, you make them even more certain. In other words, you can raise someone's level of certainty up bit by bit. You can't get it all at once. So what happens is, very often, the mistake I see in poorly written scripts with people that don't know the straight line technique is they front load. They put all the great stuff up front, and then when the person inevitably says, let me think about it, they have nothing else to say to convince that person, to influence that person, that now is the best time to make the decision. So it's very important not to front load, okay? And also, another thing about the scripts that I write as part of the straight line system is that each script is an integral part to an overall system. It's not that there's one script. There might be 5 or 6 different scripts that you go through from the entire process, from A to Z, from open to close. You have you have your qualifying script, you have your essential body of your presentation, then after you have your rebuttal scripts. And the idea is you need to have 4 or 5 different very cohesive statements, and I want to call them raps, so to speak, that you can make about your product, about yourself. And each statement that you make is designed to raise up someone's level of certainty about the 3 tenths, and at the same time to move them down the straight line from the open to the close. Let me just draw on the board here just so you can see the straight line, right, like this is here. So what happens is while your main script might take you from here to here, let's say from here to here's your qualifying script, right? Here's your main script, and here's the script where you're dealing with rebuttals and objections here. Each of these scripts is integral to the straight line. If any point in time you either, number one, break rapport with the prospect, number 2, say something that's just entirely ridiculous, or it's a lie and they catch you in a lie, right? Or 3, if you end up saying things that take the person out of the actual influence itself. I mean, you go off into Pluto. You start, like, remember your boundaries here. You have above and below the line. If at any point you don't have your script and you just start talking about the price of tea in China, things that aren't actually germane to the influencing situation, you lose, essentially, you lose the ability to close the deal. So scripts occur here, here, and here, and every one of them is equally important, okay? And when used together, you create that goal. Let's say you can meet that goal, which I laid out earlier, which is to, remember, close anyone who's closable, which doesn't mean everyone, but you close everyone who's closable. Okay? Now let's talk about the different various elements of script writing. And number one, of course, is basic structure for a script. There are three main sections. Let me write them down here for you. And what you have, number one, starts with your intro, your introduction. Okay, this is a short introduction. It's where you, if it's a cold call, or someone that you're calling, or you're in a store situation, someone walks in, it's how you introduce yourself. Okay, but let's go outbound here. Okay, that we're actually calling someone or walking in someone's door and trying to influence them, right? So you have your introduction first, then that's where you essentially transition from you introduce yourself, and then you tell them the reason why you're there today. Okay. And then you ask them for permission to qualify them. That's how an introduction, in the short order, that's really how it's broken down to three sections. Let's go through it again. Section A is where you introduce yourself with a greeting. Section B is where you actually tell them the reason why you're there today, the reason why you're there. And C is you ask for permission to qualify. And that's your basic script for any sort of cold call, whether it's in person or over the telephone, okay? From there, you transition into the main body of your script. This is number two, is the body. And typically, your body, okay, the transition from this to this, from your intro to your body, is that after you qualify someone and you uncover what their needs are, what their desires are, what their pain is, right? And you have a pretty good understanding of that, that number one, that your product does fill their need. If it doesn't, you should end the call and not try to close someone who shouldn't be closed. And you also understand that they're financially qualified, meaning that your product could meet all their needs, but they don't have the money. And you don't want to really, it's not fair to really bat someone over the head that doesn't have money, because you just make them feel like crap, because they know that you can benefit them and help them, yet they're stuck in their box because of money. So you don't want to sit there banging your head against the wall trying to close people who don't have money for your product. So the idea is part of in your qualifying section here, where you ask permission to qualify here, and this is in a separate section of the straight line, in your actual course, where you learn what questions you should be asking, the big picture questions, and as well down to the smaller picture questions, and how you use that system from going from big to small to really identify all of somebody's needs, all their wants, and of course what their pain is and what really is missing from their life right now. And of course, next step would be for your product to be, or your service or your coaching program, whatever it might be that you're offering, would fill those needs and help them get out of pain and into pleasure. Okay? Your transition from here to here is a very simple line, which is, based on everything you just said to me, this program is a perfect fit for you. You follow me? So let me say it again. So your transition would be, and you'll see this is written down in your manual, but just to understand verbally, you'll say, well, based on everything you just said to me, this is definitely a perfect fit for you. Now notice the difference there when I use tonality. When I just said it to you casually, watch, here's casual. Well, based on everything you just said to me, this is definitely a perfect fit for you. That's way number one. Way number two, well, let me say this. Based on everything you just said to me, this is definitely a perfect fit for you. Which one has more power? The second operative word there was definitely, and I said it with a hard D. I was like, definitely a perfect fit for you. That, again, is the tone of certainty, and also a tone of enthusiasm, a tone of confidence, right? And you sound like what? An expert. So that's your transition to your main body. Now, the main body of your script, to get over here, most important thing for the main body is number one, okay, that it's not front-loaded, which means you don't go in there and start listing benefit after benefit after benefit after benefit, and you become an expert at your product, and you start talking about all the features and blah, 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 blah. And what happens is you end up preaching about your product, and they're just listening, and eventually they tune out, okay? So your script should be short. The body should be no more than, let's say, a half to 3/4 of a page, okay? At which point, when you're done with that, you should have given them one or two very powerful distinctions about your product, okay? And make sure, remember, we don't sell features, and this is basic influence 101, right? We don't sell features, we sell benefits. People are not so concerned about, every feature that a computer might have. What they want to know is that it will make their life easier. It'll make it easier to surf the internet, to find out the things they want. It'll allow them to have more time to spend with their family because they can be more productive. You get it? So you don't sell features, you sell benefits, okay? Now, in terms of the flow of a presentation, it needs to flow seamlessly. In other words, it has to flow in a way where there are certain chunks that sound great, but then there are I call them stopping off points, which are these sections where you have transitions. So if you say a powerful statement, okay, and then you say another powerful statement, and then you say another powerful statement, eventually the three powerful statements start to lose their power. So the idea is after you say one powerful statement, you want to hammer something home, you say to the client, you follow me so far? And they say, yes. You get it? So you want to always say, you follow me so far? Makes sense? Are you with me? Get the person to say yes. On two levels, that's important. Number one is so the person doesn't tune out, because you're just preaching to them versus making it a dialogue back and forth, not a monologue, right? And secondly, because you want to get the prospect into the habit of saying yes. You don't want to be asking questions that might end in no, because the person says no, 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 then you want to get the yes out of them for your actual close is a bit more difficult. Now, understand this, you know, my technique, the straight line, is far more advanced than simply thinking that we can get people to say yes 5 times to simple stuff and that will allow them to close. It's not like that. What I'm saying is you don't want to get somebody into the habit of saying no, okay? When you say, does that make sense so far? They say, yeah, it does. You're in rapport. If you say, does that make sense? They say, no, it doesn't, and you try to go forward, you're out of rapport. You break rapport. All they're saying is, this guy doesn't care about what I'm saying. He's not even listening to me. You understand? So these little stopping off points where you actually say, are you with me so far? Makes sense? And they say, yes, great, boom. It keeps you in rapport. Okay? Next, the use of what I call colloquialisms. And these are, what it really means is speaking in layman's terms. You don't want to speak in a way that it sounds like it's canned and it's actually a script. You want to sound natural, like you're speaking to a friend, speaking to someone that you want to connect with emotionally and not just logically. Now, along with that, with colloquialisms, remember, you still need to come off like an expert, so there's a balance to be struck. It's not all like, hey, blah, 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 where you're like these, dems, do's, and don'ts, like a Brooklyn guy who's not educated, right? You still want to sound educated like an expert, but don't try to talk above somebody in all these little buzz phrases that end up losing their power and the person tunes out, okay? So use colloquialisms and make it sound natural, but always remember that when you're influencing, you need to be perceived as the expert, okay? Next point here, with scripts, the best way to master a script is to actually practice by reading the scripts out loud. And the way I do this, especially in the beginning when I'm developing a script, and I get paid, let me tell you, big money to write scripts for companies, where I go in there and their scripts are awful, and I go and I redo the whole thing, and for me, it's a painstaking, lengthy process. But what I do is I'll write the first generation of a script, then I'll actually go out and start working with the sales force. In fact, there's some footage here that I'm going to cut to, which will show you me actually doing this in one of the companies I was working with, and you'll actually see me going with a script that wasn't quite perfect, and how I read back and forth to people, and I listen to them, and I hear what words are giving them trouble, meaning tongue twisters, what sentences aren't flowing correctly, what transitions are awkward. Then I rewrite the script and go back and train with them again until I make sure that every single word in the script flows seamlessly. And anybody, not just the top salesman there, can say it well. Anyone can say it well, okay? So for that, to that end, it's really, one of the key elements is what I call balance. In other words, the script has to be balanced with the number of syllables, the number of beats in each sentence, okay? If something just goes and rambles on, the human ear is very attuned to this stuff and it tunes out. So you have to make sure that, it's pleasing to the ear, there's the right number of syllables, okay? And remember that you're never not closing. You're always closing. Okay? Not necessarily the sale itself, but you're closing on that the person should listen to the next paragraph or even the next word that you say. Okay? And again, the first 5 words that you say, and this is, I said earlier that I'm sure you've been through the actual straight line course where you've learned that we as human beings, we judge books by their covers. We were taught not to, but we all do. And even the people who taught us not to judge the books by their covers, like our parents, right? Because it's human nature to do that. And really, in the first 4 seconds, the people that you're trying to influence are already making a mental picture of you. So they're going to either judge you as being, that expert, that enthusiastic, sharp as a tack person, or they're going to find you dull and boring and non-enthusiastic, at which point they say, this person's not worth listening to. Okay? So it's very important that those first words, like, you say to someone as simple as, watch, I say, hi, is Pam there? Or, hi, is Pam there? Same words, but the second one comes out upbeat, enthusiastic, sharp as a tack. Now, of course, Pam is not going to buy because I say, hi, is Pam there? But if I say, hi, is Pam there? She's like, ugh, another dull intrusion into my already dull day, versus like, well, if I say, oh, is Pam there? She's like, what's that? Someone's like enthusiastic. It just sort of breaks somebody's state, and you essentially elevate somebody to a higher state. On some level, influence itself is it's the transference of emotion, the emotion of certainty. You're going into an encounter where you're very certain about your product or your service or your coaching or whatever it is that you're doing, and the person's not that certain. So you're transferring that emotion of certainty to somebody else. Okay? So it's very important that you learn to master those tonal patterns, and especially in the beginning, to come off sharp as a tack, enthusiastic as hell, and an expert in your field. Next, with your scripts, it's important that you're honest and ethical. Okay? And this is very easy to do, because when you're writing the script, you ask yourself with every single sentence, you say to yourself, am I coming from a place of integrity? Am I coming from a place of ethics? Or am I starting to exaggerate and sort of mislead? See, I will tell you stories. I've written scripts, just so you know, back in the early days when I was discovering the straight line, and I wrote some scripts that were accurate, but they weren't ethical. They weren't lies, but they were some misstatements, or really omissions of fact. So make sure that for your own ethical, your own integrity, keep your scripts accurate. Don't including lies or wild exaggerations. And by the way, just so you know, if you're a sales manager, an owner, an entrepreneur looking to use the script building technology, if you put a script out into your sales force and it's riddled with lies or exaggerations, they know it. And if every day your salespeople are out there hammering away on the phone or in the field and they're telling lies, it starts to seep into your entire corporate culture. And next thing you know, the people will be trying to rob and steal from you. Your own employees will steal from you because they think you're a thief because you're telling them to go out and lie to people. So this idea that you can have a script that's exaggerated and full of deceit, not the thing that's going to permeate to your entire corporate culture, is foolish. So the scripts need to be accurate, they need to be compliant, and they need to really reflect your corporate culture, which is one of ethics and integrity. Okay? So the question I get asked is, when should I use my script? And the answer is always. You should always use a script, whether you're in person or on the phone. So you say, well, how do I use a script if I'm in person? Very simple. You have it memorized. You want to know the script so well that you're moved past the point of the actual words. Remember, 9% of human communication is words. The other 91% is tonality and body language. By memorizing the script, knowing the words themselves, it allows you to do that automatically, so the rest of your brain can be focusing on your tonality, on your body language, and also looking at the person and trying to gather the intelligence, to be able to listen to them closely, not being so caught up in your own head. If you're so caught up in your own words and trying to say them, know them by heart, well, your brain is only so much, your conscious brain is only so much processing power, and you'll find you'll be missing those vital cues that you can get from the other people. Okay? As in terms of how you tailor your scripts, what we typically do is you'll see as you start writing more and more scripts is you can pull various language patterns from other scripts and you can make them into a cohesive pattern. And to that end, I'm giving you in the script building technology here is some sample scripts that you can actually model. And modeling is going to just save you a tremendous amount of time to learn, because again, my successes come from trial and error. And from 25 years of writing, or plus of writing scripts, almost in a way where I'm a zealot of it. I torture myself over every single word, every single paragraph, every single transition. So learn from what I've done. Model my scripts, translate, take them and use them into your own industry, and you'll have this all laid out in the manual itself. I just want to give you a sort of, visually so you understand this, okay? Now, in terms of language patterns here, we very often talk about, the use of effective language patterns, and really what are language patterns, and, how do you use them to close the deal? And essentially what a language pattern is, it's a chunk of words, maybe a paragraph or 2 paragraphs, that has a defined beginning and a defined end with a specific outcome attached to it. You can have a language pattern that's specifically designed to increase the certainty of your product. You can have a language pattern that is designed to sell your company, one that's designed to sell yourself, right? So when I go to a company and I train the sales forces, but really 80% of what I do, only 20% is actual seminars, 80% is corporate work. What I do is I will actually have the salespeople work and create 5 language patterns, 5 chunks that they can say that are intelligent, that are ethical, and that are persuasive, and that are sexy. 5 about themselves, 5 language patterns about the company that they work for, and actually 5 language patterns that are about the product specifically, that help them sell the product. And remember, again, we have, just want to go through this, what I mean by that, is remember we have the 3 10s. We have the 3 10s, right? And that's product, you, and your company. And what we're doing is the language patterns that we're running here for each are designed, if we have 1 here and 10 here, this is our continuum of certainty. Our goal is to get people to absolute certainty, which is a 10, for all 3 of these things. That's what your language patterns are doing, and they're occurring along the straight line. So in the open, this is the close, this is the open. In the open, they might be at a 3 on your product, a 2 at you, and a 1 about your company. And as they go down the straight line, you keep increasing this, moving down this continuum, increasing, boom, until you get to a 10, 10, 10. And then, of course, there are language patterns that lower someone's action threshold, their action threshold, right? And we have other language patterns that help elevate the pain threshold. And of course, I caution you that when you elevate somebody's pain, I want you to do it in a way that's empathetic, sympathetic. You're not there to make someone hurt. You're there to let someone realize that while they might think that not taking action is in their best interest, well, in the real world where they sit right now, if they don't take action, they're going to be feeling a lot of pain because they're already feeling pain right now. And if they don't make any decisions, don't make any, take any new actions, well, nothing's going to change. So that is ethical to help someone insert into the pain of not taking action, but it has to be balanced with giving them a solution as well. That, you're the guy that you can help them, that you can, get them to where they need to be in life, their goals, their vision, okay, and move them closer. Now let me just flip the page here, okay? And lastly of those, we have the introduction, the body of the script, and of course, lastly, we have the close. The close. And this is the section when you actually ask for the order. And I will tell you something very, very ironic here is that when I train sales forces, what I find very often is that salesmen who are not doing well, they don't ask for the order very much at all. Sometimes not at all. How many times do you ask for the order? It's not once. It might be 3, 4, 5, or 6 times, done in a very elegant way, and accompanied by a tone of reasonableness and sincerity, not of, give me 1 shot and you won't be sorry. It'll be like, give me 1 shot and believe me, you will not be sorry. Sound fair enough? That's more of a tonal pattern that you would find in a close. Let me just, this is in the straight line system itself, just so you understand for building a script at the end, typically what you're doing is that when you're done creating your case and you're looping into your actual close, a typical language pattern for a close would be along the lines of, and give me 1 shot and believe me, if I'm even half right, the only problem you'll have is I didn't call you 6 months ago and get you started then. Sound fair enough? Now, there are actually 3 tonal patterns in that close. I'll tell you what they are. Number 1 is a tone of absolute certainty, which is just give me 1 shot and believe me, if I'm even half right. That's certainty. Then you transition from certainty into sincerity, which would be the only problem you'll have is I didn't call you 6 months ago. Not the only problem you'll have is I didn't call you. That's not sincerity. Sincerity is calm, it's low key, it's the only problem you'll have is I didn't call you 6 months ago and get you started then. Sound fair enough? So that's a language pattern. And that last, sound fair enough, that's your reasonable man statement. Not like, sound fair enough, or sound fair enough. It's sound fair enough, you're reasonable, I'm reasonable, it's no big deal. That's how you close somebody. So it's not a close of certainty, of high pressure, it's just reasonable, sound fair enough, no big deal. Okay, that's a typical tonal pattern for closing. So let me now go through the actual language patterns themselves. Just to give you an example for a language pattern for an opening and the body and the close. Just to give you an example here that you can take and use it along with your manual that you're getting here that will allow you to write your scripts very, very effectively and in not that much time. Because the goal is not just for you to write a great script, but also to save time, because time is money. So to give you some shortcuts into writing effective scripts. So let's start like this, okay? In the opening, okay, one of the languages, I'm going to give you a couple here. I don't want to overwhelm you because you can get this all in the manual, but let me just give you one basic language pattern, okay? And this is when you introduce yourself, you say, how's it going today? And you have the enthusiastic and you sound good and you get people keyed into your voice, okay? The one pattern I want to talk about is what the reason for your call is, okay? Now listen to me very closely at the tone of my voice. I say, and they say, you say, how you going today? They say, great. You say, great. Well, the reason for the call today is we're reaching out to people in your area, whatever it is you're selling, right? We've been contacting homeowners in your area or contacting people on our list, right? So you say, well, the reason for the call today is we're reaching out to people in your area, right? That's a reason why. Now remember, there's got to be a reason why you called the person. It can't be, I just called you out of the blue. It's the reason for the call. I didn't call you yesterday. I didn't call you tomorrow. I called you now, so there's a reason attached to it. That's called a justifier. Okay, I'm going to write that down. It's called a justifier. And essentially, when you use justifiers, it dramatically increases your response rate of someone actually agreeing with you or letting you get what you want. Justifiers are very, very powerful. So I would say, watch. Well, the reason for the call is we've been reaching out to people in your area. Or I can put now a tone to that and say, great, well, the reason for the call today. See the difference? I say, great, well, the reason for the call today, or great, well, the reason for the call today, and I slightly drop my tone a bit, okay? And now all of a sudden the reason takes on a much more, ooh, what is it? Is it a secret? How you create scarcity, you create urgency, okay? So your first language pattern is going to be your reason for the call, accompanied by a tone of scarcity. And when you go to the into the workbook, you'll notice that section there where I talk about the reason why you're calling it your first justifier. Another example here of a language pattern now where it comes to qualifying, okay, is when you ask somebody, let's say you have to ask someone a question that relates to finances. So one of the things that you would do is you have certain patterns, and they're all, again, all in your workbook here. One of the things is, let's say you're trying to qualify someone for an investment, and you wanted to find out how much money they were liquid for. Okay, you wouldn't say, how much money are you liquid for right now? They'll say, well, that's a pretty intrusive question, so you're not going to get the response you want, versus taking that language pattern and saying, how much are you liquid for right now? Just the ballpark. And you get this sort of like, no big deal, just for informational purposes, not a big deal. That's called your not a big deal tone. There's just for informational purposes. So that language pattern there, which is asking someone, what do you have in the bank? I mean, are they qualified financially? You would never say, so how much do you have in the bank right now? You'd say, well, what are you liquid for right now? Just a ballpark, no big deal. And then you'll probably get the response versus someone clamming up and you'll break rapport. Okay? Now let's move on from, that's the intro. Let's move on to the body. Okay? And the intro, again, let me just give you this is the language pattern. I mentioned it before, which is your transition from the intro to the main body, which is, well, let me say this, John, based on everything you just said to me, this is definitely a perfect fit for you. Now, real quick, okay, the name of the program is X, okay, and that's how you start your transition, okay? And the language patterns that you use in the main body, it's important. I won't give you specific patterns because they vary so much industry to industry, but the important thing is that in the main body, it should be no more than a short paragraph. And it should end with, make sense so far? You follow what I'm saying? Okay, if you go on and on, if a pattern in the main body is 3 or 4 paragraphs, you lose the people. So each bite-sized chunk of information must be benefit-oriented, right? Not feature-oriented, benefit-oriented. And it should end with, you following? Make sense so far? And he says, yeah. You say, okay, great. You don't just, if he says yes, you don't keep plowing on. You say, okay, great. And make sure that your tone, again, is one of absolute certainty. So if he says, yeah, it's good, you don't say, great, like Tony the Tiger, but you'd say, great. You're going a little bit above him. And again, what you're doing is you're leading him along into a place of absolute certainty. Okay? Now let's move from the main body of the script into the close. And I said it before, so let me repeat it again now. And I would say, here's one pattern that's very powerful. Let me backtrack for a second, okay? One pattern is now, Getting started is very simple. It's just a question of some basic information to get the account set up, and then we handle everything else for you. Now that, depending on what industry you're in, is a very, very potent closing mechanism that essentially it's no big deal to get started. Remember, and this is a very important psychological trigger, is that people are always running this equation. Watch what it is. They have an equation of is effort in to benefit out. How much effort do they have to put in? How much risk do they have to put in? And how many benefits are they going to get from their effort? What you're doing with your language pattern, and it must also be congruent with your tone. So in other words, if you say to someone, now getting started is very, very simple. They'll be like, what the hell is that? You say, now getting started, very simple. Just a question of some basic information to get the account set up, and we handle everything else for you. That's a very powerful pattern for making it sound so simple for them to get started. And by the way, as an actual entrepreneur or salesperson, make sure that the system you have in place is simple. Because you wouldn't want to say that if it was very complicated. But the idea is, this is part of your actual operations and your marketing, is to make sure that you make it very, very easy for your clients to say yes. It shouldn't be that they have to say yes and then jump through 45 hoops. Now, obviously some situations, if there's banking stuff involved and mortgages, yeah, there are some hoops that need to be jumped through, but make it clear that, listen, we make this very, very simple for you. We handle all the paperwork, we hold your hand every step of the way, and it'll just take a couple of minutes of your time, or whatever amount is realistic, okay? So that would be something in your close, okay? And those are just very basic examples of language patterns. And I want to give you just now 2 more patterns here that you can focus on. Again, these are in the straight line system itself, the overall system, but one of the most important things that you want to do is the first question you're going to ask them after they say, let me think about it. Let's say you gave a great presentation, they want to think about it. First question you're going to ask them is, does the idea actually make sense to them? Do you like the idea? That's the beginning of a language pattern where you would resell, essentially you resell the company, the product itself, you resell the product itself. So, if someone says, let me think about it, well, typically we know they're being held back by one of the 3 tenets. So the idea is to raise up their levels of certainty. So your first language pattern is going to be, well, let me ask you a question. Does the idea make sense to you? Do you like the idea? So if they say, well, it's, I don't have enough money right now, you don't say, well, how come? Well, how much do you have? You don't play into the objection yet. You deflect, and then you run a pattern of, well, I hear what you're saying, but let me ask you a question. Does the idea make sense to you? Do you like the idea? Now notice the tone there. That was what I call a money aside tone. What I'm saying is, well, let me ask you a question. Like, all things being equal, hypothetically, does the idea make sense to you? Do you like the idea? I would never actually say in the language pattern, money aside, because then you make the whole thing an academic exercise. But by using the tonality that disarms them, this money aside tone, I get that across them emotionally, and I still get them to say, to stay in the sale. So I'd say, well, let me ask you a question. Does the idea make sense to you? Do you like the idea? And typically they'll say, well, yeah, it sounds pretty good. And we know that's not good enough. We need them to be absolutely certain that the product is great. So I would say, exactly. Well, let me say this. The true beauty of the program, and then I would go in and actually start giving them more benefits. Remember, I said keep your powder dry? This is why. Because after you go through the first initial body of your script, typically they don't say yes right away. So you want to have even more powerful stuff to help them come to the right decision, which is to make the decision to buy your product. Okay? So that's your next language pattern. And the last pattern I want to go through very quickly here is this sort of, I call it the rich man, poor man pattern. And what that really means is you say to someone like, what's the worst that can possibly happen? Let's say I'm wrong, okay, and my product is not everything that I say it is, okay? What's the worst that can possibly happen? And you would lay out for them, if it was a stock market, say, listen, the stock goes down 3 points and you lose $1,000. Is that going to make you a poor man? And they'll say no. And then you say on the upside, even if I'm right and it does go up 20 points, right, and you make 3,000 or 4,000, that's not going to make you a rich man either. And they'll say no. You say exactly. But what it will do is serve as a benchmark for future business. And what I can do for you besides this one transaction, this is for stocks, but it applies to anything. Whether they're buying, a coaching program, whether they're buying a car, it's, what's the worst that can possibly happen, okay? Now, of course, in some industries, it really works very well when there are ways to mitigate loss through guarantees, or in financial products, if there are any stop losses, or if insurance policies where there is, equity in a policy they can cash in. So you have all these patterns, these situations depending on the industry. But the thing to remember is that what you're doing is you're trying to say to a person who's running this same benefit, energy, effort in, benefit out, this same, in an overall structure here, it would be like this. They'll say worst that can happen versus the best. And if the worst thing that can happen here is basically nothing because there's a guarantee, and on the upside, the benefits go far beyond the product itself. It's about a long-term relationship, and you start future pacing, meaning you start saying what I could do for you besides this over the long term. We work on referrals. We're here to, to be an asset to you and your family for the long term. It has a much, much more profound impact. What we're going to do now is actually cut to the footage of me teaching script building live to people that we were developing a script together in a company, and you'll see step by step how I use the exact tools and techniques I just talked about to take a script that was okay and make it perfect, to make it seamless, to make it elegant, and to have it so that no matter what the skill level is of the actual salesperson, the presenter himself or herself, they can take that and use it at the highest level to influence people and close everyone who's closable. Now watch as I read the script, and you're going to notice something here, that I myself might stumble a bit on the words. Some of the words might not fit in the number of syllables. In other words, the specific number of syllables in each sentence, because this is the first draft of the cold call. This is going to evolve over the next 2 days to 3 days until it's absolutely perfect. Every single syllable, everything flows perfectly, so it sounds like music. It should sound like poetry when you're talking on the phone. What do you do if you're in the car and you put on the radio and all of a sudden a song comes on you don't like? What do? Change the station or turn it off, right? That's what happens if you get on the phone with somebody and your tonality is slightly off. They tune you out. You need to sound exactly right. Okay, it's a very short script, so we're going to go through the script. I'm going to give you one basic shot at it, okay? Here, and I'm going to do it line by line, and I'm going to go around the room, and every one of us is going to get this script exactly right, or we're not going home tonight. We're going to stay here all night long for 3 in the morning until the script is right. Just kidding. But we're going to get the script exactly right. Okay, so here's how it starts. Ready? Hi, is John there? Let me hear you say it.
Hi, is John there?
Good. Hey, John, Jordan Belva calling from the Keller Group down here in La Jolla, California. How's it going today? Let's hear you say it.
Hey, John, Joey calling from...
Fine, don't worry, keep going.
Calling from La Jolla.
The Keller.
Keller Group, down here in La Jolla. How's it going today?
Okay, let's hear it again. Hey, stop. Hey, John, let's hear it.
Hey, John, Joey from the Keller Group, down here in La Jolla, California. How's it going today?
Okay, he says La Keller Group. Is it a question or a declarative? He said. What sounds better? Hey, John, calling from the Keller Group. Well, John calling from the Keller Group? Down here in La Jolla, California. How's it going today? Which is better, first or second? Second. It's not, listen to me, this is science. Okay, it sounds better when you raise your voice up and turn it into a question. Say it again, just from Joey, calling from the Keller Group.
Joey calling from the Keller Group, down here in La Jolla, California. How's it going today?
Great. Now, when you say down here in La Jolla, California, okay, there's a reason why it says down here in La Jolla, California, which is really not correct English. What you're trying to say here is you're talking to the guy in a very familiar, friendly way. I went back and forth with this one sentence for like 30 minutes. Whether to say down here in La Jolla, just seeing how much attention I pay to a script, because every word will increase your close rate. Okay? I went back and forth from down here in La Jolla to over in La Jolla to in La Jolla, California. Okay? Because I know that when the right word is used, it sounds better to the person that's listening to it, and you'll get them to keep listening with more attention. Okay? If the person is in California, chances are they're north of here. Correct? because we're in Southern California, which is why it says down here in La Jolla, California. And that's meant to see a sort of good old home, know with friends. So you're not saying down here in La Jolla, California. It's like, hey, Jordan Belfer calling from the Keller Group, down here in La Jolla, California. How's it going today? Friendly, friendly, upbeat. Let's hear it again.
Joey calling from the Keller Group.
Don't worry about it.
Joey calling from the Keller Group.
Nope. Ready, watch. Joey calling from the Keller Group. Take a question mark and put a question mark after group. Write it in the script, after the word group. Put a question mark in there.
Joey calling from the Keller Group, down here in La Jolla, California. How's it going today?
I'm okay.
Great. Now you might have heard of the Keller Group.
Stop. Say it again.
Okay, great. Now you might have heard of the Keller Group.
Stop. What sounds better, that or now you might have heard of the Keller Group? Which is better? Second one, you say it.
Now you might have heard of the Keller Group.
Stop. Or now you might have heard of the Keller Group. Which is better? There's a difference between the two. He says, now you might have heard of the Keller Group, and I say, now you might have heard of the Keller Group. There is a different tone in my voice. There's something that you have, listen to me. There's something you have, it's right here. Okay? It's bottled enthusiasm. It's a power that you have to influence, and it comes from in your gut somewhere. You call it your chi, whatever it might be. If you want to influence, say to someone, let me tell you something here. You have no idea. This is the best product from sliced bread. That's one way to say, let me tell you something here. You have no idea. This is the best. Which is more powerful? The second, and I whispered. Most powerful thing is a whisper. So it's not necessarily, so what I'm trying to say is it's not just about saying, you have no idea. The certainty that you have, what sounds different? The certainty, or the certainty, is there a difference in those two words? The certainty, or the certainty, there's a power. You have to, everybody has to tap into this power that you have right in your gut here. And you have to use this to influence people. Okay, it's a power that you have that comes through the phone lines and creates a mental picture that you're sharp as a tack, enthusiastic as hell, and an expert in your field. So when you say, now you might have heard of LaKella, and I say, now you might have heard of LaKella Group, which is better? The second one. They're not in the same league. So I want to say now, the word now, circle it. Circle the word now. Now is a transition word. Now, well. To your basic transition words. Well, the reason for the call. Not, well, the reason for the call. Well, the reason for the call. Now, you might have heard of LaKella Group. When you see a word there, now, or well, know that typically that word is there to create a slight pause and to transition to another powerful thought. So you're not just going to read this and say, now, you might have heard of LaKella Group. We're one of the fastest growing customer getting companies in America. You sound like an idiot if you do that, right? You say to the guy, now you might have heard of LaKella Group. There's an urgency in my tone like this guy's, what? Should I get up? What? The tone, what you're saying is for every few words that you say with a specific tone attached, there are 2 or 3 unspoken words that he's hearing unconsciously. So when I say to someone, it's Jordan calling from the Keller Group, what words are there? Right? Right? You heard of us, right? The unspoken word that comes, when I phrase something as a question, I say LaKella Group. This is, by the way, you can see this 1,000 times in the script, especially in the close. LaKella Group, with a question at the end. The word that comes after that is, right? Right? Bingo. They want to know because they don't want to feel, they feel out of the loop. People, everybody has a tremendous innate desire to feel like they're quick on the uptake. So the person, if you say to the guy, LaKella Group, you wouldn't say, right, you heard of us, right? If you say it, it's like, what the f are you talking about? You don't have time for those words. The script would become bulky and not work. It wouldn't be workable. By simply phrasing something as a question, you've added on 4 or 5 words that started the guy thinking he's in sync with you. This is where rapport is developed. That's what it's about. tonal patterns that get the guy in sync with you, get rapport going, to get him viewing you as those things, right in the beginning. Now, later on, in the second part, as we just qualify him, you're going to learn how to get the person to feel that, A, you're just like him, likability, same type of people, that you care. You learn how to get the caring tone, how to sound like a reasonable man. There's all these powerful tones. This is just the first one. And it's a very powerful because what it does, the question infers what's called a micro-agreement. So you might find sometimes we would do 3 statements and you'll raise your voice again, again, again. And what you're saying is right, right, right. My daughter, when she was little, she was the best salesperson. She'd say, "Now we're going to the toy store, right? You said so, right?" You ever hear a kid do that? They naturally know how to do this. They'll phrase something as like, "You said you're going to the store, right? Right?" I'm like, "What? Did I? No, I don't." You're like, "You told me to take me to the video store, right?" I'm like, "Did I?" And you start looking, did I? I don't know. You search your memory. That's all you're doing right here. Okay, so let's keep going now. Start from the beginning. Hi, is Jordan there?
Hi, is Jordan there?
Say it again.
Hi, is Jordan there?
Hi, is Jordan there? It's here.
Hi, is Jordan there?
Right here.
Hey, Jordan. Joey calling from Calgary. Down here in La Jolla, California. How's it going today?
Okay, let's hear it again. Ready? Hi, is Joey there? Let's go back. I'll do it to you. Hey, is Joe there? Hey, Joe, Jordan Belford calling from the Keller Group in La Jolla, California. How's it going today?
Good.
Okay, cross off the word down here. Cross off down here. Here we go. Ready? The revisions begin. And put the word over. Put over. Okay? Watch how it flows better now with the word over versus down here. There's too many syllables. Ready? Watch. Hey, is Joe there? Hey, Joe, Jordan Belford calling from the Keller Group over in La Jolla, California. How's it going today? Smoother. Just with one change. You say, okay, great. Now, you might have heard of the Keller Group, Joe. We're one of the fastest growing customer getting companies in America, working with plumbers and electricians like yourself to get new customers for your business. Now, right now, we have about 55 new customers a week right here in San Clemente. We're in San Clemente now, San Clemente, and they're all looking for a plumber. Would you like me to have them call you? That's your basic script. Said really, really poorly, because there was some things that didn't make sense to me. Let's try it again. Say it to me. Hi, is Jordan there?
Hi, is Jordan there?
Right here.
Hey, Jordan. Joey from the Keller Group over in La Jolla, California. How's it going today?
Let's try it again. Put a question at the end of the Keller Group. Sorry.
Hi, is Jordan there?
Right here.
Hey, Jordan. Joey calling from the Keller Group over here in La Jolla, California. How's it going today?
I'm okay.
Okay, great. Now, you might have heard of the Keller Group. We're one of the fastest growing customer engagement companies in America. Working with plumbers and electricians like yourself to get you new customers for your business. Right now, we've had about 55 new customers a week right here in San Clemente, and we're looking for a plumber. Would you like us to have them call you?
Okay. Let's give him a round of applause for the effort. Okay. Listen to me. Ready? Hi, is Joe there? Hey, Joe, Jordan Belford calling from the Keller Group over in La Jolla, California. How's it going today?
Good.
Great. Now, you might have heard of the Keller Group. We're one of the fastest growing customer getting companies in America, working with plumbers and ready? Working with plumbers and electricians. Okay, got it. Bingo. Okay. Cross out and electricians. Okay. We're one of the fastest growing customer getting companies in America, working with plumbers like yourself to get you new customers for your business. Now, right now, add the word now. Okay, notice you see the word the transition? Now before right now. Reason is, okay, it allows you to pause and change the tonality again. Now, right now, okay? Now, right now, we have about 55 new customers a week right here in San Clemente. And they're all looking for a plumber. And all of them are all looking for, okay, right? And they're all looking for a plumber. Would you be interested in speaking to them? Okay, would you like to have us call, would you like us to have them call you? Okay? Start from the top. Hi, is Joe there? Hi, is Jordan, that's it.
Hi, is Jordan there?
Right here.
Hey, Jordan. Joey calling from the Keller Group over here in La Jolla, California. How's it going today?
I'm okay.
Okay, great. Now, you might have heard of the Keller Group. We're one of the fastest growing customer engagement companies in America, working with plumbers like yourself to get new customers for your business. Now, right now, we have
Okay, stop, ready? Now, right now, now, right now,
Now, right now.
now, right now,
Now, right now.
you have about 55 new customers a week right here in San Clemente.
We have about 55 new customers a week right here in San Clemente.
Okay, keep going.
And they're all looking for a plumber.
Cross out the word here. It's right in San Clemente. Keep going.
And they're all looking for a plumber. Would you like us to have them call you?
Okay, good. Watch. We're gonna go through this one more time, and then we're gonna take a quick break here because I want to rewrite it now. Now that I figure out what the. I'll tell you, there'll be through 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 evolutions until by Friday afternoon it's gonna be so dead on balls perfect that it's gonna sound like poetry when you read it. This whole customer getting thing it doesn't work anyway. Right? I get that. So that's perfect. So we get to the first evolution here. Ready? Hi, it's Jordan. Let's hear it again.
Hi, it's Jordan.
Right here.
Hey, Jordan. Joey from the Color Group over here in Hawaii, California. How's it going today?
Okay. Cross out over. Let's hear it again now.
Hi, it's Jordan.
Right here.
Hey, Jordan. Joey from the Color Group in Hawaii, California. How's it going today?
Getting better now. Doing good.
Okay, great. Now.
Cross out the word okay.
Now, you might have heard of the Color Group. We're one of the fastest.
No. Now you might have heard of LaKella Group. Now you might have heard of LaKella Group. Not you might have heard of LaKella Group. It was sounded passive. Now you might have heard of LaKella Group.
Now, you might have heard of the Color Group. Now, you might have heard of the Color Group. We're one of the fastest growing customer gaining companies in America. We work with plumbers like yourself to get new customers for your business. Now, right now, we have about 55 new customers a week in San Clemente who are all looking for a plumber. Would you like us to have them call you?
Good. Give him a round of applause here for So again, thanks very much. Always refer back to the manual so you can really take this as a cohesive package and make ssure that your company or it's just you as a salesperson yourself that you can take these scripts and go down the straight line in a way that allows you to really get exactly what you want. That is to close the people who should be closed and to build your business on solid footing so you can soar over both the short term and the long term. Thanks and see you soon.